The Little Bird Who Found Herself by Ed McMahon, illustrated by Prabjot Upal, MD, and read to you by Judi Wholeness, Doula. This story was written for a young girl named Elizabeth, who is very special. But it is also written for you too, because you are very special. Once upon a time, a tiny bird's nest sat high in a tree. The beautiful tree was growing in the backyard of a house where 3 children lived, Elizabeth and her 2 brothers. There were many trees around the homes in this town, so birds loved to live there. In a tiny nest was one gorgeous violet blue egg. The mother bird was so very proud of it, she showed it to all the other birds around her. One day, it suddenly burst open and out popped this tiny naked baby bird. The baby bird couldn't see too well, felt cold, and was kind of scared. So the mother covered it with her wings to keep it safe and warm, while the father bird flew off to look for some bugs for dinner. A few days later, the baby bird began to grow her own downy baby feathers to keep herself warm. She felt more like opening her eyes and looking around at everything. She noticed a funny feeling inside herself. I wonder what this funny feeling inside me is, the tiny little bird said to herself. As the days went by, the funny feeling kept growing and growing, and the little bird wondered and wondered what it was all about. One day, she heard her mother chirping around the nest as she was tidying up. Suddenly, the little bird knew what the feeling was all about. That was what she wanted to do. She wanted to chirp. In fact, the little bird knew that she just had to do that to be herself. Without waiting another moment, she opened her mouth and let out the loudest chirp you ever heard. Even the children who were playing in the house came outside to see if they could discover what the sound was. The dogs began to bark, and the lady next door, who was hanging out her wash, stopped to look around and listen. The mother bird, who had not been paying any attention to the little bird as she did her morning chores, was so startled she fell over backward right out of the nest. Since she could fly, she opened her wings and flew right back up to check out what was happening. When the little bird saw her come back, she felt it was time for another big chirp. So out it came. Seeing all this and feeling all the attention, the little bird said to herself, "Wow, I'm really somebody, and this feels so good inside me." But before the little bird could chirp again, her aunt said, "Birds don't chirp like that." One of the cousins said to the little bird's mother, "You have to stop this." Someone else added, "You need to teach her the right way to chirp." As others nodded their agreement, more and more kept saying things like that to the little bird's mother and father. The little bird just sat there in the nest quietly, feeling very confused and lonely, and sadder inside as all the birds went on and on with their comments. "My chirp is me, and I am my chirp," the little bird said to herself. "But all these birds who are older and bigger and smarter than I am say this is not the way a bird chirps." This confused the little bird very, very much, so much that all the happy, good feelings inside began to slip away. The little bird's mother didn't say much because she was also confused and embarrassed that all the friends and families thought she was a bad mother. The father bird tried to pretend that nothing had happened by going off as usual, getting very busy finding more worms and bugs. That left the little bird very much alone and not feeling at all like chirping. In fact, she was scared to even try again. Day after day, she got sadder and lonelier. Each day, she sat by herself on the edge of the nest or on a nearby branch because, well, by now her feathers had grown and hopping around on the branches felt like the only fun in life. Sometimes her cousins would come over, chirping and playing, asking her to join in. But whenever the little bird would risk trying to chirp as softly as she could, they would say, "That's not the way we chirp. Either you learn to be like us, or we won't play with you." That would make the little bird so mad. Her chirps would come out anyway, and when the other birds would try to drown her out, feathers would fly. All the noise would bring the lady next door running out of her house, banging on a pan to scare them away. So the little bird stopped trying to play with the other birds and would sit all alone day after day by the nest. One day, a wise old owl flew by and saw the little bird all alone looking sad. The old owl flew down next to the nest. When the little bird looked into the kind face of the big owl, something inside felt safe and right to ask, "What do I do?" The old owl gently moved over next to the little bird and said, "When you grow quiet inside and listen to your body, what does it tell you needs listening to more than anything else?" Quietly, the little bird went exploring down into all the feelings in her body under the new feathers that were growing. The old owl said nothing, but the little bird could feel his reassuring presence, and that helped her stay inside herself with her feelings. It didn't take long before her body told her, "I'm very, very sad." She shared that with the wise old owl. The owl moved ever so gently closer to the little bird, saying, "Can you move up closer to that sad place inside yourself, like I'm doing with you, and let it know that you are there and will listen to it patiently?" The little bird could feel how to be with her sad place from the way the old owl was with her. Together, they were very quiet as she moved even closer to her sad place inside. After a moment or two, the owl quietly said, "Now let yourself really, really feel in your body and what it's like to be next to your sadness, like I'm next to you." And then they both grew even more still as the little bird tried to do just that. After a while, in a whispering, very quiet voice, the wise old owl softly encouraged the little bird to stay inside with the sad place, saying, "Take your time and listen to that place inside, because if you can feel it, you know it wants to tell you something." As the minutes passed, the little bird became aware that the sad, hurting, scary place didn't feel so bad because it wasn't alone anymore. The little bird realized it feels better not to leave sad, scary, confusing, lonely places inside me all by themselves. I ought to be taking care of them and playing with them. The old owl smiled and replied, "Take some time now to notice how that feels in your body." So the little bird paid attention inside to what those words felt like in her body. Almost right away, she noticed the sad place didn't feel as sad now. "I think it wants to tell me something else," she said. The owl responded, "Just stay in there with how it all feels and listen patiently." Suddenly, the little bird looked up at the large gray owl perched next to her and said, "Chirp! Yes, that's it. I need to chirp and chirp and chirp and chirp." So the little bird began to chirp, and the smiling wise owl flew off with the promise to come back again if the little bird needed him. But the more the little bird chirped, the more everything felt inside. On and on she chirped, day after day, week after week, even when the neighbors and the aunts and uncles would fly by and voice their disapproval. The little bird didn't pay any attention to their scowls, but kept on chirping the way it felt right to chirp. Even though the little bird was still all alone on that branch, chirping away, inside there was no sadness and confusion anymore. The sadness and confusion were no longer alone because she had gone inside to be with them and they had become her friends. In fact, they could tell her what they wanted to, and so they didn't feel like she needed to be afraid of them anymore. They would say what they needed to say to her now, and that changed the way all the feelings felt in her body. Once again, the little bird felt very special inside, so special and good about herself, in fact, that the funny feeling she had felt so long ago returned again. I wonder what it is this time, the bird thought to herself. The more the little bird chirped away, the more that funny feeling grew inside herself until she felt like it had to come out. And one beautiful sunny morning, as the little bird woke up and opened her mouth to chirp, out came the most wonderful sound instead. The little bird began to sing. All the other birds stopped their chirping and listened in amazement. The dog stopped barking down the street, and the children on their way to school came over to listen. The people in the neighborhood came to sit on the lawn under the tree and listen to the beauty of the little birds singing. She sang and sang and sang for everyone, but most of all, for herself. The other birds said to each other, "Why can't we sing like that? All we can do is chirp like we are supposed to. Why is the little bird so different?" When the little bird and the wise old owl who came by to listen heard that, they smiled and winked at one another. And so the little bird grew to sing more and more beautifully every day because she never again left those special feeling places inside of herself alone.